Hi, my name is Emilie Paquin, and I work as a publishing and partnership coordinator for the Consortium Erudit. In my presentation, I will outline the funding structure of Erudit, the organizational changes we've been through, and also the review of the business model we are currently in. But before doing so, I would like to sketch out a little bit what Erudit is, because I guess that not a lot of people here know what Erudit is. So the foundation of Erudit is really closely linked to the linguistic and cultural context of the province of Quebec. Enclosed in the English-speaking North America, separate from France by the Atlantic Ocean and from the French Antilles by the huge United States, Quebec is sort of a village gaulois, a Gaelic village resisting like Asterix and Obelix, for those of you who know the famous French comic, to the invasion of Jules Caesar, to put it in epic way, of course. So there are only 7 million inhabitants in Quebec, and it is also the only province in North America where French is the official language. Paradoxically, that situation of relative isolation has allowed the emergence of a distinct culture and also of a strong will to protect it, offering opportunities for projects like Erudit. Actually, there are no platform of the kind of Erudit in the rest of Canada, mostly because of the proximity of the US and services like this being available in the US for the English community of Canada. So Erudit's mission, Erudit is obviously a non-profit platform. It is also a multi-institutional consortium supported by 3 major research universities: the University of Montreal, which is the main partner, Université Laval in Quebec City, and University of Quebec in Montreal. Erudit offers actually different types of services to the overall French-speaking scholarly community of Canada, grouping journals, scholarly publishers, universities, and also publicly financed research centers. Besides that, scholars can access the XML tag datasets, because everything is tagged in XML on Erudit. So access the XML datasets to conduct, for example, bibliometric research, or also use its infrastructure for study purposes. The collection, the idea leading the constitution of the Erudit's collection was and is still to give a centralized access to all types of scholarly content published in French in Canada, especially in humanities and social sciences. Because of that, we can say that there is implicitly a national dimension to the mission of Erudit. As you can see, there are 4 types of documents. Journals, we have almost all the French, Canadian scholarly and cultural journals on Erudit. Books and proceedings, we have like 50 books right now. We will launch officially the section next year if everything goes well. We have also theses from 5 universities and great literature from research centers in the section named Documents and Data. Around 95% of all content published is in open access. The open access is really at the heart of the project. A 2 or 3 years moving wall allows the sale of the journals that don't have an open access policy, which represents 75% of all journals right now. That sale brings them significant additional revenues. We return around 75% of all revenues generated by the subscribing activities. The content of the other section are freely accessible, but when launching the book section, that could change. We are thinking about a hybrid model to respect the will or the possibilities of publishers. Now the funding. The funding of a structure like Erudit is a continuous challenge. Although looking back at the history of that funding, we have to recognize a strong commitment of all our partners. Right now, the funding is a mix of public grants, governmental grants, of financial support by the 3 universities associated, and also of subscribing revenues that represent like 25% of all the budget. In the evolution of that funding, we can identify 3 phases. So the first one I call the early days. So in the early days, the funding were coming essentially from governmental grants and the University of Montreal. Second, the consolidation of the institution with the foundation of the Consortium. And third, the beginning of the sales activities. So more precisely, the early days, Erudit was first set out as a pilot project, essentially to produce in XML 5 scholarly journals. At that time, several governmental grants and a continuous financial support of the University of Montreal really made the adventure possible. Back then, the Erudit model was essentially based on a detailed XML tagging expertise, on the use of open, standard, and software solutions. Everything was built in-house. A digital workflow to produce journal in XML was built, and as Thomas said, a DTD still used that became a schema recently. Now the consolidation. After 2 or 3 years of negotiations, funding a consortium is not a simple thing to do. So the consortium was officially funded in 2004. The organizational structure of Erudit was then officially institutionalized, ensuring a stable financial support and also the legal capability to first sign contracts and then sell the collections. Since then, Erudit has been heavily supported by the 3 universities. The universities fund mainly the salaries, the social charges, and they host, the University of Montreal hosts the office. The technological developments still rely mainly on grants, which is not an easy situation all the time, obviously. Finally, the commercialization. So before 2006, everything was in open access on Erudit. But after 2006, a moving wall was established at the request of the majority of the journals in order to help them reconcile their print activities with their new digital versions. Erudit has now customers in more than 35 countries throughout Europe and the Americas mostly, even though the Canadian libraries are still the main market and sources of revenue. I think we are working on this to build a subscribing base outside of Canada to stabilize our financial revenues. Now, the evolution of the model. Through the years, Erudit went from a production-oriented infrastructure, as I said, to a research platform offering different types of services to journals, libraries, users, and also scholars. Until the end of the year 2000, the main objective of Erudit was to offer an expertise in production of XML files, and disseminate the journals also, obviously, and to conduct important backfiles digitization projects, essentially to build the collections. By the beginning of the year 2010, the focus of Erudit slowly shifted to better serve the changing needs of its growing clienteles in terms of promotion, dissemination, and the usage of the collection mostly. So we've been through a lot of organizational changes past year. In the years following the start of the sales activities, the collection of journals that was coming from the main three universities associated began to come from an extended network of research institutions, diversification that reduced the evident initial link between Erudit and its funding partners. So, a need to better distinguish Erudit's commercial activities from its academic foundation arise from the increasing interest of the publishing community in the services provided by Erudit. Financial pressure on the operating budgets of universities for the last decade prompted the examination of all secondary activities, and digital publication for an entire community was one of them. So the University of Montreal, the principal funding partner, required complete financial autonomy of the consortium in a period of 5 years. So the past years were spent to first clarify the institutional structure of Erudit, its link between the three partners. And we are now currently working with a consultant to revise our business model because we are working right now with him. I cannot tell you the magic formula we have found to reach sustainability. I will have to come back next year or next year if everything goes well. Maybe in 2 years. So, yeah, we're there. Before that process, the Erudit team was totally integrated in the academic activities of the University of Montreal. The employees were mainly librarians or IT specialists. In the past 2 years, 3 positions were created to support the growth of Erudit. Mine, which is Publishing and Partnership Coordinator, also and Coordinator, and recently a Communication Manager. So the creation of those positions really helped professionalize the services provided by Erudit, and all the technological development were then subcontracted to the Center for Digital Publishing in the University of Montreal. Interestingly, this evolution towards more autonomy and a certain distance from the academics has reinforced the evolution of Erudit as a research platform. The presence of dedicated professionals has increased the potential for collaboration with researchers. We have multiplied the projects in different sectors, including the building of digital collections directly linked to the research projects of scholars, and also to the development of data analysis tools. And that evolution has also, and it's a good thing, we were surprised, but awakened new interest from the academic institutions and the funding agencies in the potential of Erudit as an experimental platform for digital humanities. Finally, I will present 3 main challenges we are facing right now, and we will continue to face in the next year. First, the need to diversify the collections and to consolidate their business model. The quick evolution of the journal section has required Erudit to dedicate almost all its resources to this activity. There is now a need to better balance the financial and human investments in the journal zones to ensure the development of the 3 other zones, and also to secure our capacity to sell the collection of journals. In doing so, Erudit will have to elaborate strong business models to support the growth of the 3 sections. Complete public and institutional funding of these development is not possible anymore, as it was with the journals project. The financial capacity being greatly reduced in the public spheres, as we all know and live. There is now, for us, an obligation of sound business plan for each project that we launch if we expect public institutions to contribute. Second, the need to reduce the pressure on the sales department and to develop new sources of revenues. In a way, the success of the journal section puts a lot of pressure on the sales, these revenues being essential to develop other projects. But the expansion of the journal sections, the collection is not the miracle situation to increase revenues, even if the cost of our journals are not really high, because as we all know, the budget of the subscribing libraries are also under huge pressures, mostly from large commercial editors. So, in developing the 3 other zones and in restructuring also our services to journals, we try to diversify the sources of revenues. Many possibilities are planned, such as commercialization of added services to journals or to libraries to sustain mostly the open access collection, or the establishment of a financial contribution structure for the universities benefiting from the harvesting services. Right now it's completely free. There's no free to access and there's no free to be harvested. And finally, and not the least, the need to plan a governance structure to integrate new partners and to increase their commitment towards Erudit. Because the actual structure is not appropriate anymore. The University of Montreal now publishes less than 50% of all documents disseminated, while still holding 65% of the consortium, and of course still providing 65% of the institutional contributions. So that opening of the structure is exciting, but it is also a clear risk for us. It's a bit risky because there could be a dilution of the involvement of the partner in Erudit. So before doing so, we are working on consolidating the financial operations of Erudit. So this is some of the challenges we've been facing. But when looking towards the future, I think, oh my God, my English. After 20 minutes of speaking English, I cannot anymore. Thank you, Anne, for the invitation. And maybe in 2 years when we will be strong and we'll have a new business model.